Yes.
Okay. And hi everybody, and thanks for joining to the fourth webinar for this first open call of the Imagine-B5G project. This one we are considering to have more of a Q&A session. So if you have any questions on administration, technical, or any questions on the facilities, we will basically take these questions during that session. And we are hoping to maybe highlight some of the things we have experienced in terms of some of the questions, and maybe some of the aspects are not clear. So I just have a few slides that I just want to go over, and then I will leave the floor to the facilities if they want to highlight some aspects regarding the facilities. And afterwards, we can basically try to answer any questions you might have. By the way, my name is Özgü, and I'm a professor in University of Oslo, and I'm the technical manager for the open calls for Imagine Beyond 5G. And let me basically just start reminding about the timeline. I'm sure most of you already know this by heart, but the feasibility check deadline is approaching. It is basically 18th of August. I believe it's this Friday. As you know, feasibility check is an important part of the proposal submission, and what you need to do is basically fill in the feasibility check template, send it to the open call mailing list, and you need to get a pass from the facility, which basically says your idea or what you want to do on those facilities are basically we can realize what we want to do on the facilities. And without this feasibility check, the proposals will not be evaluated. So it's an important aspect of the whole proposal submission. But once you basically get this feasibility check, of course, there is the main proposal, and that is the one that will be evaluated by a group of external and internal evaluators. So the main proposal submission deadline is September 1st. So it is basically 2 weeks after the feasibility check deadline. And what you need to do is you basically add the feasibility check pass as well as the proposal itself to the portal and submit it by the deadline of September 1st. What we are planning to do afterwards is basically the evaluators will evaluate these proposals, and we are planning for a notification of acceptance in October 1st, 1 month after the proposal submission deadline. And depending on depending on how fast we can onboard the projects to the facilities, our goal is the open call projects start sometime in November 2023. So that is basically our timeline we are looking into. So just a kind of a wrap up around the preparation and submission process. You basically find all the documents in the open call. I assume most of you are now familiar with Guide for Applicants and the grant agreement. Make sure that you read, or your legal departments read, the grant agreement, because we assume when you submit the proposal, you accept the grant agreement. And I'm sure you have already basically checked the facility descriptions, the document on the platform extensions and vertical experiments are there. One important aspect is when you are writing your proposal, please map the proposal into some of the use cases or some of the desired platform extensions, because when we were preparing these documents, we are open to different extensions or vertical experiments, but as we mentioned before, these will be the ones that are highlighted in these documents will be prioritized. That's why it will be important if you are mapping to one of those categories, please highlight this so it is easier for the evaluators to see you are considering one of the identified categories in these parts, just to be prioritized. And two more documents are the proposal template and feasibility check template. I assume you are all familiar with those so far. Then what you need to do is you go to our submission portal, which is in this address, and then you click for a new submission, or if you already have created a submission, you can basically update it up until the deadline. If I quickly go to the submission portal and, for example, create a new submission, you will basically see you need to fill in the title, you need to upload the proposal itself, you need to upload the feasibility check that is basically filled in by the facilities and have the passed mark. And then you basically need to choose one of the type of the project, experiment or the extension. And we also require you to fill in this box where we ask whether you have different projects or proposals in other SNS open calls, so that we avoid double funding or any troubles that might arise afterwards. So once this is basically done, if I go back to the presentation, is the evaluation part. So one thing, maybe, I don't know, we got some questions that might be confusing. So just to avoid any misunderstanding, the feasibility check is the first step to get into the evaluation, of course. But the main thing the evaluators will evaluate is the proposal itself. They will most likely not even look into the feasibility check. The important thing is feasible. If it is the proposal is feasible or not, we will basically have a check mark there. And the thing the evaluators will do is basically evaluate three sections: the excellence, the impact, and implementation. So what we will have is a team of internal and external evaluators, two external, one internal, and sometimes if there are disagreements, there might be more evaluators that are assigned to a proposal. And we ask them to basically give a score and give why they give this score for each of these sections. So excellence, they can give a 5. They just say everything is clear, mapping the objectives, and impact, they give a 4, saying some of the aspects are missing, for example, and so on and so forth. So when we have all these from evaluators, then we will basically create the total score. And then out of 15, you need at least a 10 to kind of cross the threshold. And for all the proposals that has more than 10, we will rank them. And while doing this, since one of our goals is to basically provide SMEs a platform to test their ideas, there will be 2 rankings, one for SMEs, SME entities, and one for other entities, so that we make sure that we have more than half of the budget allocated to the SMEs. So this is basically kind of the overall evaluation that we will carry out during September. So make sure that your proposal is competitive. Our goal is to evaluate each of these open call proposals as an Horizon Europe project. So as maybe all of you are familiar, it is basically more or less the same procedure. And this will basically determine whether the highest ranked projects get the funding from the first open call. Okay? So as always, you can basically, if you have more, if you need more information, you can get in touch or check our website, send us an email. We also have a Slack channel that you might join, but we are here to help you out if you have any questions or any comments regarding the open call. So this is basically what I would like to say. Maybe one more thing. We also get this question. It is possible to submit multiple proposals. That means some companies or some entities have, for example, a pass on the feasibility check for multiple ideas or even multiple facilities. So you can submit multiple proposals. There is no problem there. But when selecting the proposals, we will only allow, if you have the high score, there will be only one project that will be funded. So it doesn't matter if you submit one or two, for example, and even if both of the proposals are ranked high, we will basically only allow for one project to be funded. So you can basically decide how many you want to submit. You maybe consider combining some of the ideas, or it's up to you. But from the first open call, there will be only one entity that it will be one project per entity from the first open call. So that's something I also would like to highlight.
Ozgu, since you are in this topic, there is a question that is a bit relevant. So the question is that if someone is a founder in two different SMEs, if he can apply and run projects in parallel. So the SMEs are different. I think
if that person basically have multiple companies, I think here what is the determining factor is if the two companies has two different peaks and they are not somehow daughter company and so on and so forth. So as long as I think that the companies are separate entities, this should be fine, because this is not on a private level, but this is a company level, and it is possible that one person have multiple companies, I assume. So just make sure that when you are basically in that situation, there is maybe not so much relationship between the companies that might create some conflict of interest, or that might consider as double funding and so on and so forth. But I will not be worried if that is not the case and the companies have kind of distinct, separate peak numbers, for example. Any other questions?
Not that I see. So
okay. So what I would like to do is maybe I can stop sharing my screen, and then we can go to one of the facilities if they also want to touch into last minute aspects of the facility. Min, do you want to start? If you have anything to add to the description to kind of provide to the proposers?
Yes. I just want to share some of our learnings or observations by evaluating the feasibility check requests that we have received so far. We have received about 14 feasibility check requests, and then there are some frequent asked questions here. I would like to give a clarification and hope that can answer or clarify some concerns or confusions for some applicants, and also to help if someone needs to apply in the next few days, then that can also help you to position your proposal. One of the most frequent asked question is about the UEs, and in general, we expect all the open call proposers to bring their own UEs to the platform for if they wanted to test their own vertical experiment applications, but we will provide a list of validated UE models, and if the open call users want to bring their own UE models, the first thing we have to do is to validate these UE models. And I will also give another comment later. In some special sites, for example, in Fornebu in Oslo, if you need to do the experiment in our facility site in Telenor headquarters, we also have a security check process that needs to validate your UE devices, make sure that it's secure to be used in our facility. So yeah, this but in general, we expect use case open core applications to bring their own UEs, because we do not have the capacity to support all the UE requirements. That is one thing. Second is also about the computing resource requirements. And in general, we can support the lightweight or medium weight resource requirements that we can host the applications. But if some open cores want to run very computing resource consuming applications, or they need GPUs, this kind of requirements cannot be supported by our facility. And again, that is the open core applications who we expect to bring their own computing resource into this experimentation. The third one is about the number of network slices. In general, for the first open core, we can offer one stable network slice for experimentation, and but this slice may be shared by several use cases concurrently, and at this moment, we cannot guarantee additional slices. If you need additional slices, we have to agree on the specifications and the requirements. And we also need extra time to evaluate and then to prepare such a slice. So that is the other point I wanted to mention, that about the time plan. If the vertical experiments want to want some extra network slices which are not available at this moment, you have to take this into account, that we need extra time to prepare you such a slice, because some open cores, some applications, they set up a very short period, like 6 months for the experimentation, which probably will make it the time constraint very tight. That's we need to prepare the slice, and then you need to run your experiment after the slice will be available. That's for the platform extension type of application, we would like the proposers or applicants to clearly specify the requirements on the integration and the interfaces, which are very, very critical, because whatever components or hardware, software you bring into our platform, that has to be integrated with our platform. So we have to check the integration requirements and APIs. And some information is still missing from the proposal. For vertical experiment type applications, we also like the proposal to be clear about some special UE setup. For example, some experiments require they will bring their sensors. Then we need to know where you would like to mount the sensors. Some sensors, if it's mounted in the public area where you want to run experiments, then we also need to consider the data protection and privacy issue, because these experiments will be conducted in the public area where some sensors are very high, very advanced and powerful. They can collect the data automatically. So we need to get a consent while we provide you the facility to run this type of experiments. Sometimes we may not have the capacity to do this thing. Yeah.
Hi, Min. Just to interrupt, because there is a question somehow related. Maybe we can just take it now, because somebody is asking regarding the UEs. We plan to include budget to purchase UEs within the project. It is acceptable to define this UEs laptop or smartphone and make the purchase based on validation during the project. I would just generalize this for hardware. So you can definitely budget the purchase of hardware in the project as long as you justify it. Specifically for UEs, the platforms don't have many UEs in general. So if you need something specific, or if you will basically use the UEs for, I would say, longer periods, I think it will be good to budget for these UEs so that the platforms are not under constraint in terms of providing all the UEs for all the open call users. So it would be good for budgeting these. Laptop, I'm not sure, but smartphones, CPs, anything that can be considered UEs, I would suggest to kind of have some budget so that there are no problems trying to schedule the use of UEs in the facilities. I don't know whether you want to add something more on this, Min.
Yeah, I think that's a very clear and a good complementation to what we observe here. Yes, and I think it's mainly it's the mobile phones and the CPEs, and if some applications want to bring their own modem, that definitely needs to be validated, and so yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, thank you so much, Oscar. Yeah. And the other thing is about the logistic for running the experiments, because some use cases, the open course, they require special experimentation conditions and environments, like for the hospital, ambulance. We just want to just to clarify that the facility owner, does not have the capacity or capability to provide you such experiment environments like ambulance, and it is up to the OC open call applications to arrange such conditions or such environment or services. And the other thing is also about the vertical experiment is, again, in the vulnerable side, it is the Telenor's policy that we have to run the security check on all the UEs and CPEs used in our facility site. And yeah, the one key message, we see like there's quite a lot of interest in the network on wheels, which are very, very attractive, but as we point out before, these network on wheels, these are the facility or the resource of a specific stakeholder or use case of Imagine-5G. So there are actually private 5G networks, and the use of a network on wheels should be coordinated and agreed, and we have to set up a schedule for open calls to use the network on wheels. The number of network on wheels to be used and the time and a location to use network on wheels is quite limited. I have to say it is quite limited, and it is unlikely that we can give a full control to the open core users to use network on wheels. And the same will goes to the private 5G networks where we have. So it is possible to negotiate the use of the private and the network on wheel 5G networks, but it is unlikely to give the full control to open core users. The other thing related is about the radio access network. So far, we have 3 GNOB nodes in 3 different locations that we can offer as the public 5G services. But these 3 GNOBs are located in 3 different cities, first of all. So if some use cases or open course, they want to specialize like in positioning, which require multiple GNOB nodes in one location, that is unlikely as for the first open call. And also for the private network 5G networks, we also want to clarify each private 5G network only has one single radio node, no multiple radio nodes for a single 5G network. And also no radio backhaul is available. If your open call proposal has such a requirement, then maybe you will consider to revise or modify such a requirement, and because in any case, for the first open call, it is difficult for us to support this type of requirements. the last one is about a Mac. We noticed that many applications use the term of a Mac, but some of them only meant the edge cloud or edge cloud or edge node, while others they meant the fully etc or standardized Mac framework with the orchestrator and the manager. We wanted to clarify, first of all, our facility can provide the edge nodes, that is not problem, but not the standardized Mac framework. So we will suggest the open core applications to explicitly specify whether you want an edge node or a fully standardized Mac framework, so that we will not get confusion. Last is about the timeline I have mentioned before. If some use case or vertical experiment require extra capability on the facility, like they want extra network slice with special requirements, then you need to take the extra time into account while you do the time planning, because such a special slice is not available at this moment. We have to design, prepare, and create and validate this slice. It takes time. So yeah, that's the main observations and the feedback we would like to give for clarification. Thank you.
Many thanks, Bin. I think this is very useful, and I think in general, while writing the proposal, it will be good for the proposers to kind of have a time plan that is maybe a little bit conservative, because these facilities are new, and onboarding to the new facilities always takes time. And that is the main reason we do these feasibility checks, to make sure that we have all the features or all the things you want from us. But having everything in place, that does not necessarily mean that first day you can come and run the experiment. So there is also a learning process. There might be maybe additional things that needs to be added based on your specific experiment. So please plan accordingly. And for example, one thing I might suggest, maybe for the network on wheels, you can run some of these experiments in an indoor private network type of a testbed first. Make sure that you know the setup, configuration, and everything you need to control. And then maybe towards the end of the project, when everything is up and running, working, the final runs can be run on network on wheels. So I think it will be very hard from the Norwegian facility side to provide the network on wheels during the whole project period, but we will try to basically provide it to the projects that are funded on a scheduled basis. In that sense, I think it will be good that the proposals is prepared with this mindset in a sense. Okay, so we have some questions. Let me read this question. I don't know whether it is Norwegian related, but if not, we can still take it, I guess. We would like to test terrain vehicles communications in several steps. Use virtual data, send an application through the facility capability, and based on the results, use the real vehicle to test. That is more or less what I was mentioning, I guess. The first virtual data test is possible through API. This can be flexible as it will be developed in the project. Do we need to specifically define framework, formats, etc. within the proposal, or can be a step in project? So in terms of the methodology, I think it will be good. You don't need to go maybe into the details, but it will be good. What you are planning to do is in terms of your methodology and the implementation part. So that part will be evaluated by the evaluators to see whether it is reasonable, realistic, and so on and so forth. But after, if your project is funded, in the first month, what we plan to do is the facilities will sit together with the open call funded projects and make a more thorough plan in terms of, okay, what we need to do, what is the timeline, how we can do this together. So we will basically work with you the funded projects to make this happen and realize this. So the proposal, it is not 20, 30, 50 pages. I don't think you will have a lot of space to include the details, but I would suggest to, in a high level, kind of make the plan. And if the project is funded, we can go into the details of this plan in the first month during the signature and the first deliverable. I don't know whether anyone would like to add something. I think this is more administrative rather than the technical one, but in general, I think it is good. Some initial tests are done virtually or some platforms, facilities that are maybe easy to access. For example, for Norwegian, some indoor private network rather than the network on wheels, and then use the facilities on final testing steps where everything is ready and everybody is familiar with the facilities and how to use them. Okay.
And just one comment regarding the discussion we had for the budget for the equipment. In the proposal, there is we presented, I think, in webinar 2 or 3, there is a table where you can like specifically indicate the budget for your equipment. And then you can select also about like whether you have a platform extension or a vertical experiment. So there you can make like an approximation of how much budget you are planning to spend. So yeah, you can do it, and there is a specific field. I just wanted to highlight that in the proposal itself. Yeah.
Okay. So one question, with respect to the Advanced Edge Cloud Continuum platform extension, we would like to ask if placement, migration, scaling decisions are meant more between the Oslo Central site and the Oslo UIO Edge site, or should we also consider other Edge sites across Norway? You want to comment on this, Min?
Yes, I will say. So at this moment, we have for the first open call, we probably will have 2 edge sites. One is in UIO, one is in Svalbard, and I will say it could be in both edge sites in UIO and Svalbard for the edge cloud continuum platform extension. But again, we Oslo Central site, what?
I think
also, when you say Oslo Central, I think okay, sorry, it's a Fornebu Central site.
Yes.
Fornebu Central site also. So
and UIO, but you say it is UIO and Svalbard. The edge node will not be in the central in the Fornebu.
Yeah, so because the Fornebu is the central site where the core network is located, so there is no need for edge deployment. But UIO will have your own edge site. Then we also deployed another edge site in Svalbard, which is far away from Fornebu, and that is the value of deploying edge site. So to serve customers that are too far away from the central.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So you have 2 choices for now. Yeah.
Yeah. The next question is what is the monitoring platform that is used to get the performance metrics in the central and the edge side? But I guess we can take this as more on the edge and the core network, maybe.
Yeah. So currently we do not in the Norway facility, we do not have a full monitoring platform, but in the Imagine project itself, we do have a work package that will offer the monitoring solutions, which will be deployed later. The timeline has not been finalized, and it probably would not be available in the beginning of the first open call, or like November, but it may be available next year. So it's based on the key site monitoring and testing solutions.
Okay. So there is one more comment coming up, but meanwhile, Karim, do you want to go next? Okay,
Yes,
so to clarify, you expect a migration between central and edge 1? Or migration between edge 1 or edge 2?
I would say we would expect when you say migration, we would expect the continuum between the central site and the edge 1 or central site and edge 2. So at this moment, I'm not so sure we are not ready to do the migration between the two edge sites because the two edge sites are not connected.
So you can consider, for example, the edge node in the University of Oslo and the central site in Fornebu, and then consider the migration in the initial phase for this. And maybe in the second open call or later on, we might also consider the orchestration of the migration of the load between the edge sites.
Yeah, but for now, for first open call, we are not ready with the edge orchestration and the load balancing between edge sites. Not yet. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yes, Karim.
Thank you, Özgür. I will share my screen. So today I will present some points that I want to highlight about the French facility. So first of all, only few proposals tackle the aspect of the 5G, the open source of the 5G platform. In French facility, we have open source GNOD and core network functions. So it's unfortunate that only few proposals tackles this aspect, because it's an opportunity for companies to develop new features in both GNOD and core network, especially the release 17 features of the GPP. The second point is that the 5G setup can be replicated in another place, even without radio equipment. So even if you don't have user equipment and USRTs or radio units to make the experimentation, you can have like an emulated physical layer, and you can run all the higher layers and also the core network. So it's suitable for developing extensions. So you can replicate the setup on your site in even simple laptop and to do the development and the implementation. Then we can test in the facility premises with the real radio equipment and real mobile phones. The third point is about the ORAN extensions. So I just want to say that we support FlexRIC and also the ONF-RIC. And in near future, we will support the ORAN-RIC. So if you are an X-App developer and you want to test your X-Apps service models in different platforms, so you can apply in this open call. Another point is that some applications that we received doesn't use the APIs of the map and the core network. So they just want to run the applications using the 5G connectivity. I want to highlight that you can also adapt your application to get benefits from the APIs. For example, to steer the traffic, to get radio information about the coverage or the quality of the channel of the user, get some mobility information, and you can enhance your application using this data in order to improve it. And also you can configure the run via X-Apps. So for example, if you know that your application is sending packets each 100 milliseconds, you can configure the run to enable DRX, for example, to optimize the energy consumption. So this is an opportunity to enhance your application, your vertical applications, by using the X-Apps and the APIs. Also, for the verticals who require URLC for low latency and high reliability, I want to highlight that in the Eurocom facility, we support the latency the RTT of less than 8 milliseconds. So for some user equipments, they have like a buffer, they don't transmit the data directly. That's why the latency increased to 8 milliseconds, but in the best case, it can get lower to 5 milliseconds. And finally, I want also highlight the fact that you should deploy your applications in the facility using the vertical portal. Because in some proposals, they just want to run the application in the facility and use it via the 5G network. But in the facility, we have like a vertical portal when you can onboard your images. So the application should be containerized, it should be in containers format, Docker containers format, and you can just specify the link of your image or the GitLab repo if you provide the source code, and everything will be done at the facility, the onboarding and the authentication of the application. And also it will give you the DNS name that you will use from the user equipment side. So from the user equipment side, you will use the DNS name to access your application. And in this way, you will benefit from the automation process. So you can deploy your application via friendly user graphical interface. You can monitor your application, you can get the RAM, CPU consumption, and even the energy consumption of your containers. And also you can get the user equipment metrics, like the coverage of each user, the throughput, the latency of the users. And finally, you can get the logs of your application. So all of this, you can get them from the vertical portal. This is all from my side. Thank you.
You're muted.
Good, you're muted. Yeah.
Sorry. Any questions to the French side? If not, maybe we can go to the Portugal side. Jose, do you want to highlight some aspects?
Sure. Let me just share. Okay. So, well, one of the main questions we always get is regarding the coverage and the spectrum. It's important to clear out that we do not have access to any commercial network. It's not something that the facility offers. So the facility currently has these sites that are documented in the facility description document. We have only 20 megahertz of bandwidth. I mean, this is something that is allowed from one of the national operators to use it for these purposes. So it's not something that we can change, and also expand the facility coverage is not an easy process. So your main contribution in the proposal should target one of the areas in which one or more of the areas in which we have currently coverage. And of course, since this is the bandwidth, you also should consider the kind of bit rates that you could have with that amount of bandwidth. The second point, so the second point is in the lines of the technological landscape. So we have several solutions realizing the same kind of services. So we have different 5G cores, we have different MEC solutions. In some cases, if you already know what is the solution you would like to use and the reason this is useful, in any case, if you describe enough what is the requirements you have, we could help you in the mapping to the proper solution and how it can be used. Among these solutions, the Open5GS is the only one that is fully open source. If you want to change something, it has to be in that one. And the second point is we have this vertical portal, so we expect you to use the vertical portal to interact with the facility. Of course, since we are looking for groundbreaking solutions, it may be the case that you realize that you require some other access rather than the one offered by the vertical portal. This is okay, but in any case, it's important to explain your need and how you are planning to use it, what kind of APIs you need, and etc. And the third point is that in our MEC solutions, and all the Portuguese facilities has a strong focus on location, the MEC does not currently support any sort of location APIs. So in general, this is more in the lines of the last days of the feasibility checks. So it's important that you get all the information there. So one of the things that we consider and commonly found is that you need to explain your vertical experiment and how your vertical experiment will use the Beyond 5G technology. Although in the feasibility check, we are not concerned with the technical merit of the proposal per se, it is important for us to understand what do you want to do use with the technologies to realize if we are able to support it or not. The same goes for the platform extensions, which we need to understand the advanced feature you are bringing, how it is relevant for the use cases. And in the case of these platform extensions, we only need to understand your integration strategy. This goes allows which APIs you want to use, which is your target function that you want to extend, etc. The third point is about the requirements. So the requirements should be detailed enough so we can actually understand if we meet them or not. So it's not enough to say I need to access to a 5G core, because this could mean a plethora of things. So please state what are your needs, what are your requirements in general, and try to justify what you need. And the last point is about the testing and validation. So although this is something that is in the end, it helps a lot in understanding what you will require from the facility. So what are your plans? What are your goals? Where are you going to execute them? This goes in the lines of if you want to use, as me was saying before, an ambulance or access to the hospital, we do not have that access. So either you are the one that will be leading this and interaction, or you already have the possibility of having this access, or then you have to check what you can do with the available resources in the facility. But this testing and validation part is really important for us. So that was my take.
Thank you very much, Jose. I think these are good points in general as well. So I just want to highlight that the goal of the feasibility check is not making the proposer's life difficult. It's really for us to understand what you really want to do and how we can best support what you want to do, and whether we have the features, the setup, or anything that is needed from the facilities, how we can best support the experiments or the extensions. In that sense, please try to be thorough. Again, as Jose said, the feasibility check, we are not evaluating the technical merit, excellence, impact, implementation, but the details you provide to the facilities will help them to better understand what you really want to do, and whether today, at least for the first open call in the next year, 6 months, whatever, we can provide this, or maybe we will say, please consider second open call. And this is something we do so that when the idea is nice and the project is funded, you want to do the thing, and then we just say, but you cannot do this because of this and that. So that is the whole idea. And if you provide more details, I'm sure the facilities will get what you want to do better, and will help the best to their abilities to support this. Any questions? I'm not sure, do we have anyone from the Spanish facility, but
yeah, fortunately there is no one from the Spanish facility today. So hopefully in the next webinar we can
provide information over email if there are some questions there.
Yeah.
And we can wait another minute, maybe if there are any questions from the audience. Otherwise, we can wrap the webinar up. We will provide the video to the YouTube channel, and we will share in the different social media outlets. Okay, I get one regarding project team. Are external, not directly employed collaborators? do we need to list the team as in specific persons or just roles? Is there a specific place in the proposal? So I don't know what you mean by the external, but what I can tell is subcontracting is not allowed. So this is something I think you should avoid doing. Other than that, in the budget, there is basically you need to identify resources. We don't need the list of each person. Maybe we just need to basically understand, at least the evaluators, when they are evaluating, the team who is behind this has the expertise to do this work. So it might be the company has products in that part, or the university has professor who is working on this part. So you can basically just justify why you are the team to basically carry out this project successfully, but not necessarily everybody's CVs and so on and so forth. So this is maybe a little bit more on a higher level. And that probably will be sufficient for the proposal phase. So we just need to kind of make sure that or justify that the team behind this can carry out the experiments in the defined period with the defined schedule and so on and so forth. The other thing is we are running these open call projects as a lump sum. So when basically we will ask for the distribution of how the resources are used and so on and so forth, but it is not like a Horizon Europe project where you need to detail every bit of this and that. So this will be basically one of the simplification. So you can basically little bit consider what you want to redistribute or distribute budget internally. So in the proposal phase, the most critical thing is you have allocated enough resources, enough budget to carry out the proposal, the project. That's the most critical thing. Does that answer your question? So in Horizon projects, one can include budget for expenses of owner, which is not employee. Is that the case here? To be honest, I don't know. If you send an email to us, we can check this. But in general, I assume if it is something that is doable in Horizon projects, most likely. But there are some aspects like subcontracting that is not allowed as well. So this I don't know. We basically just need to check with the PO or with EU whether this is doable. But I will take a note of this, but if you basically send an email, we can follow up on that. Yeah, the project management cost is a standard percentage as the indirect cost. I would say yes. So the eligible cost categories basically are defined. Maybe I can quickly show this. Just give me a second. Okay. So allowable funding cost categories, basically personnel costs for development, integration, experimentation, testing, and validation activities, infrastructure, hardware, and software to deploy the project, travel and accommodation to participate in some of our activities, and communication and promotional activities. So these are the main cost categories. So we will not basically, I don't know whether we will define what is the percentage of indirect costs can be used for the project management. I just need to check this, but in the lump sum model, I don't think we have a number for that. So there is this basically lump sum that will be provided, and we will basically ask how the resources are used, but not in such detail as the Horizon Europe projects. But I can check with our admin and financial manager if you require more details on this and come back to you. I basically don't have a number percentage, and I'm not sure even we will have that number because we are running a lump sum model for the open calls. But I can basically double check if this is important and you need to know before submitting the proposal, and we can try to find the answer for this question. Any other questions? If not, thank you for joining today. As I said, if you are wondering about something, just drop us an email. You please also watch the previous webinars where we provided more detailed information about some of these aspects. And remember the deadlines. The feasibility check deadline is coming up very soon, and then the proposal deadline is September 1st. I know it is the summer period. Most people are on the vacation already, but I hope many people can submit a proposal, and we are really looking forward to working with the first open call projects. So I don't know whether there is anything else you guys want to add from the team. Otherwise, thank you very much from us.